22 days away from Minnesota on the road, and there is much to talk about as there's some shuffling going on the Ohio State offense. We will address that with, of course, Tony Gerdeman from Buckeye Scoop and Steve Hellwagon from Bucknuts on 247 Sports, awaiting Kevin Noon. Hopefully he'll be able to join us as well here at Buckeyes Live. You guys know the drill. You produce the show. Ultimately, leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics, but we certainly have a couple big ones to start out with. Boys, how we doing today?
Doing good.
Good.
Doing well.
Good to see everyone here. And no, I'm not intentionally looking away from Tony and Steve. It's a guessing game as to how many guests I'm going to have on, or the different live versus recorded, and where the camera should be and the camera angle. And we continue to try to work through that. All right, guys. The offensive line, which was supposed to be a mainstay and certainly is loaded with talent and experience up front, despite a couple losses from last season. Tony, there is much going on in regards to trying to find that right combination and what could be a dominant offensive line.
Yeah, the Ohio State came in with, two open spots on the offensive line. And it looks like now we had some intel late last week, that they're trying some things around and had moved Munford inside from to left guard and Nicholas Petit-Frere over to left tackle from right tackle, and moved Dwan Jones into with the ones at right tackle. And then when we were at practice yesterday, that's exactly what we saw. And I didn't want to believe it, because I don't know why you would move arguably the best pair of tackles in the nation, and Thayer Munford and Nick Petit-Frere, why you would want to mess with any of that. But when we talked to Greg Stadraw on Tuesday, he said this was basically a move made by Dwan Jones and his play in camp. And he necessitated this with how well he's been playing. Thayer Munford went to Stadrawa and said, hey, why don't we move me inside? And that way we can get Dwan Jones on the field, because he's been playing so well. And so now you've got a guy, Thayer Munford, who came back, one, to graduate, two, to show the NFL more of him at left tackle and prove that he can play left tackle. And now you get into camp, and Thayer Munford is the first guy saying, hey, maybe you should move me inside so that we can get the best five on the offensive line on the field. And so we'll see if it sticks. They're going to figure it out, or decide, I guess, probably on this five following the scrimmage on Saturday. But it sure seems like, from what everybody was saying yesterday, this lineup has been working well. They like it. So this might get finalized this weekend, and that could be the lineup you see in day one.
Again, going back a couple sentences, Tony, you said that they want to have a starting five and in their places by the end of the weekend.
Well, that's when they will decide if this is the five they like, but this is going to be their first scrimmage. There's a lot of decision-making that they would like to have done based on what they said. They would like to make their decision on the offensive line Saturday. If this group continues to play well, then it sounds like it will be that be decided on Saturday, after Saturday.
Kevin, welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks. Yeah, I got caught on a phone call, and I was just like, I got to go. The voice of college football is calling me.
I'm sure that
you know who we're talking about.
Oh, I'm sure that just, yes, brings you to action immediately. Well, we appreciate you making time. I hope you guys realize that. I think you do. That, and I hope everybody out there, leave your comments and questions, but realize what these guys do each and every week, coming here on Wednesday afternoon to talk Ohio State football with us. It is much more than an hour obligation by the time we schedule and trade topics and do all the things that go into a little preparation for this and in the aftermath each and every week. So, of course, that's Kevin Noon from Buckeye Grove on Rivals. We're talking about this offensive line shuffling, Kevin, which seems to be centered on Dwan Jones, but do you think it possibly speaks to anything else going on up front in regards to who's playing, who's not playing well?
No, I don't. I think it's just a case of you need to try and get the five best guys out there. I mean, I remember when we were talking, and I don't want to repeat anything that Steve or Tony may have said, but I remember when Brandon Bowen was playing guard, and we're talking about what a giant guard out there doing that. I mean, we're looking at the potential with, sliding Thayer inside and everything else. What does that mean or whatever? But, I don't know if it's necessarily a case that anybody is not, getting it done. I think it's just a case of you see these guys who are performing very well. And if your best five really does include DeJuan Jones being out there, I mean, we're not that far removed from him being the fourth best tackle on the team. And now you're going to sit there and move, your starting right tackle, to left, and your starting left tackle to guard. I mean, I don't know. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around this. It's something that I've given some thought to of what it looks like. Just the run blocking could be tremendous in this situation. I mean, I think Minnesota better be ready for some ground and pound action if this is what the line looks like. But, I think that the skeptic in me who just has seen the diamond formation and heard the talk of the bullet and everything else, is this the latest red herring as Ohio State delivers it to us on a silver platter? It's like, we don't let you see much practice, but we're going to let you see this. And then we're going to have you write about it at length, so everybody knows what's going on with it. I don't know. I'm just not sure that this is what it's going to be. But then again, the more I doubt it, the more likely it's going to become reality. So I'm hesitant to say thumbs up or thumbs down, but I certainly don't think it's because, this player or that player is underperforming. Greg Studraro said, "Oh, I've got 10 guys who could go, and I think our twos could start at a lot of places." And, we get a lot of those pleasantries or whatnot at this time of the year. But I think at this point, that's pretty close to truth.
Steve, your thoughts about this offensive line? Whoa, did I do that? I was trying to make sure that Steve's mic was on.
Hello, am I on?
You are on.
Okay.
And you've got the floor.
Yeah, I think it's still early in camp. And as Tony pointed out, today was supposed to be a big day for them, probably with some type of a scrimmage. It sounds like Saturday will be another big day for them where they'll probably run a 100-play scrimmage or more and really get a sense of who can play. And I think when you have all of those plays stacked up, you're able to make some value judgments, particularly with the offensive line, who's best at run blocking, who's best at pass blocking, with the quarterbacks, who executes the offense, who moves the team, who completes passes, who's accurate, who can make all the throws. So they're kind of on parallel paths right now, trying to figure out who should play quarterback and also what alignment the offensive line should be in. I think the good news is they have 6 first-team guys and potentially as many as 8 when I throw in there that it's probably between Paris Johnson and Matthew Jones at the right guard spot, it would seem. And then you also have Josh Pryor, who could play guard, and Luke Whippler, who could play center if Harry Miller isn't able to do it. And then Matthew Jones may also be an option at center as well. He played center in high school. So you have a lot of directions and a lot of moving pieces and parts. So I really consider them having 6 first-team guys, 2 more guys who could be first-team guys, and then some other guys that could fill in around the edges as well. So they can go in a lot of directions here with this offensive line. And I don't think, however it ends up, I don't think there will be a game in the 2021 season where the offense underperforms and we come out of it. Dare I say they lose a game? I know perish the thought where they come out of the game. We said, man, the offensive line really cost them that game, which we have seen in the past where they couldn't protect the quarterback or they couldn't establish the run to the level that Ohio State is accustomed to, which is generally 200 yards rushing or more as a team in a game and 250 or more passing as a team in a game. I don't think we're going to come out of any game this season and say, man, that was a dog crap game by the offensive line. They really didn't play very well. If they lose games, it's going to be because of some other unit, in my opinion. So to me, this is all just semantics. When you're talking about, DeJuan Jones is going to be our mainstay at tackle. Well, he's going to play about 60, 70% of the snaps there, and then some other guys are going to get to play too, in my opinion, because I think they're going to mix and match. And I know people are like, 5-man cohesion. We got to have that. Well, I think there's also something to be said when you're playing in severe conditions in September, like a noon game on September the 11th against Oregon. That could be 100 degrees on the field. It might be your benefit to rotate offensive linemen and have the strongest five ready to go and churn people in the fourth quarter. So to my way of thinking, I think, we can't make any definite statements yet about who's doing what to who, but it is interesting some of the rotations we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's a great point, Steve. And one that I will make concerning the offensive line is kind of my pat answer, is that it's the most complex unit to coordinate and all the combinations and so forth and so on. So I'm sure they run into dilemmas all the time where those are our two best left tackles. Well, they can't both play left tackle. So one of them's got to move somewhere else. Well, one of them's more versatile to go to other spots. The other one's not. So we might be playing our second best left tackle because the other guy is more versatile. Those sorts of decisions have to be made at times. And also, I think I should have learned from my many years in television, and I'll draw some analogy, that everybody thinks everything's all neat and pretty and worked out perfectly when you go to air because they don't see any obvious mistakes. But because I tend to look at this and think, oh, they better get this together and they better figure this out in the next few days because they're going to have to go rep after rep after rep with the same starting five for weeks after weeks on end. No. It's kind of the same as television. It may look pretty in the end, but people don't know that there were, 18 points of contact involving duct tape to make it happen. But it looked good in the end. And these guys play football. They know what they're doing. They played football for a long time. They've got coaching. They've got to make moves on the fly, and they get it done. Sure, you want to have a plan in place, and you want to have a plan B, C, and D ready to go. But sometimes you got to be prepared for the unexpected.
Well, and last year prepared them for that. They had several different offensive line combinations, and they talked last year about how they were able to build cohesion within the week. And it wasn't as important as it has been in the past where, you want those same five guys to go for as long as they can. All of these guys, a lot of them they're all back, and they experienced last year. And I don't know that the season-long cohesion is as important as it has been in the past because they've learned to do it week by week. Now, I'm sure they don't want to be on that same kind of schedule this year, but they did get some good experience doing that last year.
Yeah, you trot Max Ray out there at Michigan State, granted, empty stadium and a really bad Michigan State team, and he comes out there and grades out as a champion. It goes to show that these guys were able to step into tight positions and be able to perform at a very high level. And I think that that's going to carry forward, even if some of the names are a little bit different. And you have like true freshmen like Donovan Jackson already repping in the two deep and whatnot. I think this is going to be a team that's going to have, an incredible offensive line. And maybe this will put some of those Coach Stud dissenters to rest a little bit.
Tony, before we jumped on live, you had a couple notes concerning the quarterback position in regards to who's receiving reps with whom and what it might mean.
Well, and every time we've seen them, it's been C.J. Stroud going with the ones, going first. I think yesterday was the first time we saw quite a Kyle McCord take some opportunities going second. He and Jack Miller were both switching back and forth as to who was going second or third. So I don't know if it's anything. It may be just a little bit of something. Maybe they're trying to see Kyle McCord more with some of the twos. That way he's not constantly throwing to walk-ons and guys like that. So they're giving him an opportunity to succeed with some scholarship players. But that was one thing of note that I honestly didn't even notice in my practice report because I was so intent on watching C.J. Stroud, who looked pretty good. Looked better than the other two, and we got to see some deep balls. We got to see some one-on-ones. But it's also sometimes it's really difficult to see the quarterbacks throwing the ball because many times they're about 100 yards away.
Yeah, I'll throw in on the quarterback. I think to me, it's C.J. Stroud seems to me like he is the number one guy, and it's going to take somebody playing really well in these two scrimmages. I call them scrimmages, practices Wednesday and Saturday. According to Coach Day, he said those were to be the two important days here coming up to really take it away from him. I just think that he seems to be at a different level based on what I've seen. And again, no 11 on 11, but a lot of good passing drill performances and different things like that. I think McCord may have a slight edge over Miller for the second spot. And of course, Quinn Ewers has not practiced yet, and they're now one full week into practice. And I think that lessens the impact that he could make probably in the first third of the season, in my opinion, at this point, that he has not picked up a helmet yet or even begun to learn the offense. So at least hands-on with the coaches looking over his shoulder. So I think to me, it's Stroud's job to lose at this point. And it's kind of, in my opinion, becoming a little more apparent that it's going to be him. But again, let's get through these 2 days. And I haven't got a report yet today on what may have happened over there. But, I think that it is likely he's got the inside track, obviously, right now.
Steve, I thought you told us last week that Quinn Ewers was just going to step on campus, sign a few papers, drop off the backpack, and be ready to throw like 45 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think I did make that point pretty clear about how he'd make an instant impact. That's not really necessarily what I had said. As you all astute followers of the program know, that I did lay it out that his college career is going to be a soft launch, it seems. And, while the season and the games are going to be playing, he's going to be percolating on the back burner, itching for his spot. And maybe by midseason, asking them point blank, when can I get into a game? And either they will oblige him or they won't. So I guess we'll have to see. Maybe that Akron game in week is it Akron? Yeah, Akron. They're playing in week 4. Maybe that'll be the one. I don't know. I'm
sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to tell the guys I agree, and they kind of hit all the points, and that's where I'm at. I mean, Tony is certainly right that they're about 100 yards away, and we had the opportunity to see them drop a couple of throws into the basket as the receivers were. I really think they spend the first couple of weeks preparing trainers and everybody else where to stand to make sure they obstruct our view the best, because it is uncanny how we can't get a clear shot of anything. And we did have the opportunity to see some quarterback, running back work, but we had to look through the tight ends. We had a chance to sit there and be able to see them do this, and there were 3 position groups in front of them. But I'd still say that CJ is probably sitting there with a little bit of a comfortable lead. McCord and Miller are kind of right there. Maybe McCord's up a little bit. And then, of course, the wild card could be here by the end of this week in Quinn Ewers. And, I'm not sponsored by Holy Kombucha. And if anybody wants to tell me really what kombucha is, I'm all ears.
You probably got a good look at the long snapper competition, though. Was that front and center? We get like D line to like our left, and then sometimes we'll get O line to our right, and then everything else is kind of behind them. So put the big guys up front, and forget about it after that. They block the view. Got Mike 3883 on the line. Besides the quarterbacks, he's asking what position, Kevin, has the most question marks for you at this point.
Linebacker. I mean, I could say secondary, because those are the 2 most popular ones to say there. But I think with linebacker, just based on how little we get to kind of see of anything that's linebacker related, I don't know what I've seen from them. It's not like we can sit there. I mean, as I said, they presented it with a ribbon around it, what the offensive line configuration is as of today. We certainly can see what's going on with the D-line. We certainly are making sure that we're paying attention to the guys in the black no-contact jerseys of the quarterbacks. But I really can't sit there and remember anything that I've seen out of the linebackers. So, I think there's going to be a lot of questions there. I think that once they do this scrimmage coming up, we're all going to be working our sources to kind of get an idea of what the overall feeling is, because I think that is the position that is shrouded in the most darkness.
The linebackers, just to give people an idea, because we are when we're out there on the practice field, we are about, I don't know, 10 to 15 yards outside of the end zone. The linebacker is usually in the opposite end zone on the field over. So there's almost no point in even trying to watch the linebackers because you only have 30 minutes to watch everything. And so you have to like watch the stuff that you could see, knowing that you better get some video of the quarterbacks because that's what people want to see. So you got to spend some time there. And the linebackers are the middle child. They just get ignored. And so, yeah, I haven't really seen much. I did see Cody Simon walking off on his own, some type of injury, nothing I would think too severe. But, yeah, like is Cody Simon the number one middle linebacker right now? Is it Dallas Gant? I think Taraja Mitchell is probably solidified as the will, but what about Palai'e Naoteote when he gets cleared? If he gets cleared, where is is it just two linebackers? Is that the base defense? Is that the base defense against the Wisconsin? Is that the base defense on first down against Minnesota? And because we continue to see Craig Young in the bullets with the safeties, and that seems like it's gonna be the way it goes, but we haven't seen any scrimmaging, even when we see one-on-ones and we see it's 7-on-7. It's not actually 7-on-7. It's more like 5-on-4 or 5-on-5 because the linebackers aren't out there. So we really haven't seen anything of linebackers other than off in a distance. Is that a 32? Is that 20? What are these numbers away, 140 yards away, who are doing tackling drills that mean nothing from this far away? And yes, it looks like they're able to tackle dummies. Linebackers look good.
Yeah, I would say with those guys, I agree the linebacker position is a major question mark because we really didn't get to see the 11-on-11 yet to know if they're making plays in the run game or in the pass game. I think cornerback remains a little bit of a question mark. If Seven Banks is dinged up a little bit and Cameron Brown is on a pitch count coming back from an Achilles injury, where things stand there, Ryan Watts and Lejon Cavazos are kind of next men up, it seems like. Marcus Williamson, I guess, is the third corner, playing the slot corner still, I suppose. I don't know. And then you got the young guys, Ja'Kalen Johnson, who is a hotshot freshman, Jordan Hancock. Those two guys in particular could maybe mix in the two deep at some point. So unless we know that Seven Banks is 100%, and they're being careful, obviously, because it's August the 11th and the season starts September the 2nd. So there's still plenty of time, 22 days, as everyone has said, to get this thing really rolling and ready to go. So I'm just of a mind that, again, they're going to work through as many different combinations at all these positions and mix and match and come up with what they think is the right solution, personnel-wise and scheme-wise, to start the season.
Yeah, corner is actually my answer as well. I was just just agreeing with Kevin on the difficulty of seeing the linebackers. Corner, because if Seven Banks, we assume he's going to be fine. Ryan Day seems to think he's going to be fine. But when DeMario McCall is taking snaps with the ones and getting a lot of reps in practice, it's interesting. Is it a concern? It's certainly the fact that everybody is saying he's playing really well and has earned those is great. And I mentioned this on our board yesterday. There are so many people concerned about DeMario McCall. Why is he taking snaps? But if he had come in via the transfer portal from anywhere and he was playing this well, or we were hearing these reports about how well he's playing, the Buckeye fans would be thrilled that somebody has come in to save the position. But since it's a sixth-year running back, it's a source of panic. But it's certainly a source of wonder, concern. And, Cam Brown, all of the words and everything we're hearing was good from the coaches, from his teammates, from Cam Brown himself. You want to see Ryan Watts get involved more there as well. And, Legend Cavazos has been injured for so much of his Ohio State life that how long does it take him to, what happens when he really starts to ramp up, and can he surpass guys when he does? Denzel Burke, the freshman, had his black stripe removed. He was the first guy in fall camp to have his black stripe removed. So there's another guy. So they've got a lot of guys at corner. You would just like to see things start to solidify there. And maybe they have, and maybe the Seven Banks thing isn't serious. And maybe Cam Brown is exactly the player they thought he would, and maybe you're giving DeMario a lot of reps because he needs some so that you can see like if he's ready for the season. And then you got a bunch of young guys, but I still think there's questions in that entire secondary. We could spend time on the safeties just as well because there's some questions there as well.
Our guy Yakov jumping in here with a super chat. Thank you so much for that, Yakov. Appreciate that. Stroud, McCord, 70-30 split. Yeah. I hope maybe a 70-30 split in practice. Hopefully he's talking about practice. If he's talking about game reps, that looks like a disaster to me.
Or a blowout.
Right.
Well, yeah. Okay. But a planned 70-30 is no. That's never worked.
No, you need to sit there and you're going to have a starter who has no starts under his belt. As they said in year one of Justin Fields and why Justin Fields played so much. Well, he hasn't played a lot of football. Well, none of these guys have played a lot of football either. But I think we've also seen the situation that if you put all the reps in one guy, you do run the risk of, what happens if you need to play the second guy or you need to play the third guy. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a couple of scripted series to where the two comes in. I mean, you would like to see them maybe be able to operate with the ones and against the first team defense of the opposing team and, maybe in the second quarter, but the goal is to win the game. The goal is if you worry about the future, your future may be you sitting in the stands along with the fans because you didn't do what's necessary at that point. So you can't sit there and be playing for 23 or 24 or even 22. You've got to be playing for 21 at this point. So I don't know if we're going to see a defined number on there, but I do think that as Ohio State should be favored by double digits in every game of this regular season, we'll see the 2 and maybe even the 3 play some, especially once Ohio State emerges from its first 2 games of the schedule and things decelerate a little with Tulsa, Akron, Maryland, and Rutgers.
I really have no idea why none of you brought this up as we were planning the show, but Kyle McCord is transferred. So Lewis with the news update for us there. All right.
Well, in this day and age, you never know because we were at practice. We were at practice one day and got pictures of the offensive lineman. I've now even forgotten his name.
Ryan Jacoby.
Ryan Jacoby, got photos of him, and then I don't know if it was later the same day or the next day, you see that he's leaving. So things happen really fast at this level. So I don't suspect anybody's going to leave in the next several weeks, but obviously if you get deep into the season and you see the handwritings on the wall that you're not going to play, you may stop practicing and put your name in the transfer portal with an eye on 2022 and getting out and going somewhere for winter semester. But I think the guys who are there now will be with them for the duration of the fall semester and then, let the chips fall where they may. I mean, 1 could be 3 and 2 could be 1 and 3 could be 2. We don't know. I mean, you just don't know until you get into a game and see who moves the team, who's most efficient, who stays away from the turnovers, and who handles it. So to my way of thinking, there's a lot to work through there still.
I think with
Tony, you told us. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking if Kyle McCord is playing in the second quarter or has been planned to get reps against Minnesota, to me that would be a huge sign of how well he is playing. And I just doing that on the road in an opener in Big Ten play would surprise me against a quality opponent in Minnesota. But if he's out there, then that means something to me, and it means like maybe this competition is going to go further into the season. But I would expect to see. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him at some point in that game late. But if it's always a 2-touchdown game and C.J. Stroud isn't throwing 4 interceptions during it, I wouldn't expect any other quarterback to take any serious reps other than the starter.
All right, Tony, I think you would set us up on the Cody Simon injury and gave us just about as much information as we've got at this point, right?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything new. I don't know if anybody else has, but I mean, he was walking fine and looked okay. But he was walking with Jalen Johnson, who looked fine, and it turns out he had a torn ACL. So, nothing that I have other than generally it's not a serious thing when they're still at practice walking around. So I guess that I take that as an okay sign. But like I said, he was walking with Jalen Johnson, and that was not so okay.
Kevin, Marcus is asking about the 22 class and how many projected defensive linemen do you think would be selected?
It's always difficult to be able to judge what numbers are going to be based on, if you sit there and does one position rob another position or whatever. I think that you need a couple of tackles. I think you certainly need, 3 ends, 4 ends. I don't get as locked up on numbers in terms of what it is. I think that the class kind of sets itself up. You look at who wants in, who it takes, and then you kind of decide from there. Now, you can't take 7 receivers. I mean, Ohio State, certainly under Brian Hartline's recruiting, has been in position to grab just about, not necessarily whoever Ohio State wants, but it certainly feels that way in a lot of regards, and you have to put a cap on it. But, defensive line recruiting, offensive line recruiting, you cannot take a break on either of those in any given year. So, you sit there and you see who wants in at this point, and you kind of judge from there. And then it just kind of determines what you're going to get. Are they going to take 3 safeties? Are they going to take 4 corners? If you lock 7 guys up there, how do you sit there and take 6 on the defensive line? So, I know that's probably a non-answer and not really what you're looking for, Marcus, but I think it's just a long way of me saying to be determined.
All right.
Yeah, very, very evasive and avoided the question, Kevin. No, just kidding. I would look for him to take 3 or 4 defensive linemen. As he said, I think there's a need at defensive tackle for a couple of those and at least 1 edge rusher. I would think, maybe they don't have any right now to my knowledge. So they got a lot of ground to make up here on the defensive line for 2022 in this class. And as we said, losing the offensive lineman, Ryan Jacoby, who they lost, to transfer portal this past week, opens up another spot for this class. So, and not necessarily for an offensive lineman. They've got plenty of those, but could use some more help on the defensive line, in my opinion, in this class.
All right, talking Buckeyes every Wednesday, 2:00 Eastern time, but sometimes we've got to switch up on the schedule, so please subscribe, hit that bell for the notifications to know when we are going live. Again, Wednesday at 2:00 Eastern time is typically our home. We got Kevin Noon from Buckeye Grove on Rivals right down there nodding his head. Steve Hellwagon with the big celebration week for the missus.
Birthday, I can't give you the number, but I almost gave you the number. 50th birthday for my wife.
Tony Gerdeman from Buckeye Scoop.
Well, yes, thank you.
Yes, and Tony, right. But while we're at a reset here, let us know where we can find you and what you got going on.
You can find me at BuckeyeScoop.com. Today we just dropped a trailer for a documentary that we were part of. You can find it at FightForFootball.com, detailing last year's cancellation of the Big Ten season by the Big Ten. Some stuff that went into that and how it turns out. I think we all know how it turns out, but some interesting stuff from there. That is, you can find the trailer at FightForFootball.com. You can find it on our website at BuckeyeScoop.com, and you can find it on YouTube as well. But give it a look. The premiere will be later this month.
Exceptional. Kevin.
Yeah, you can find me at BuckeyeGrove.com, or you can find me on Twitter at Kevin_Noon. And, just getting ready for the start of the season, working on a lot of video content, going to start rolling out things like Tale of the Tape and some of the favorite features that everybody has. So be sure to keep it dialed in at BuckeyeGrove.com.
Mr. Steve Hellwagon has been gracious enough dozens and dozens of times, I don't know how many times, of posting our show here on Bucknuts 247 Sports. So, Steve, I hope you know we appreciate that. What's going on for you?
Just keeping busy with going to practice. We posted a lot of photos from practice, videos from practice, photos from the team arriving at the hotel, and people love those photos because the guys are not in the football uniform. You can get an idea of who's really put on that positive weight, so to speak, and who really looks the part in street clothes. And you can see the excitement in their eyes as they're checking in for 2 weeks of hell, basically, 2 weeks of preseason camp, although they've done away with two-a-days, so it's not quite as bad as it used to be. Probably a lot of downtime now for the guys that they used to fill up with two-a-days every other day. But at any rate, you think about, having to go to other fields and these kind of things. Now they keep it all at the Woody Hayes Center. But any rate, I am, again, Steve Hellwagon on Twitter and at bucknuts.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network.
Folks, these guys are here every week talking Ohio State football. We've done this 118 times. Their attendance is like 98%, all of them, and they give it their time. They've got so much going on otherwise that, just understand the Super Chat's on here. We want to keep this going for a long, long time. Also, you can bypass YouTube, wink, wink, if you'd like to, but we got the Super Chat available as well. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. I would just ask that you would put Ohio State, go Bucks, whatever you want there to signify that it's targeted here. All right. If you get bored watching the Minnesota game, let's say Buckeyes are up 49-3 in the third quarter, I will be at a punch-drunk state at this point after a 24-hour live stream. Yes, we're going to go from, I figure that the post game should go till about 2 a.m. on Thursday. So I'm figuring 2 a.m. Wednesday night, Thursday morning, we start going live. And yes, I do plan on cheating a few times. I am going to maybe bring in a few other people to host for a couple hours here and there where I can take a snooze for an hour or two. But we're going to go live for 24 consecutive hours, 2 a.m. to 2 a.m., going around those Thursday night games, Ohio State, Minnesota, the headliner, of course. I don't know when I'm going to take those naps. They're not going to be at a time that anybody wants to relieve me at like 5 a.m, but we'll give it a shot. We've been thinking about doing that other times, so we're going to do it this year.
I like the idea, Mark, but asking somebody, hey, can you just step in at the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock hour for me in the morning? That is way worse than asking somebody, can you help me move, or can you drop me off at the airport, or can you pick me up? That's another level right there. That's some good.
No, what I was saying, Tony, is that I won't be asking anyone to film. Okay. I don't expect the relief to come at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's going to come at like 3 in the afternoon. That's fine. Whenever I can catch an hour or two to sleep, we'll do that. But at a younger age, I might have tried the 24 consecutive hours by myself. But man, I get up out of this seat like after 2.5 or 3 hours of a call-in show, and my hips are barely moving. So I don't know what that would look like. You're going to have to probably watch me eat and everything else.
You get one of those sharper image massage chairs.
There you go. Yeah, we got to make much better accommodations for that. But we'll give it a go. All right. We will also have Ohio State post-game here every week after the game. So be looking out for that as well. All right. Here's the coaches poll. Alabama received 63 of 65 votes, first place votes. Oklahoma received the other 2. Clemson finished at number 2, which obviously means some of these folks had, whether it's the coaches themselves or their SIDs, had Oklahoma a little bit lower down the list. So the top 5 is what we expected the top 5 to be. Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Oklahoma 3, Ohio State 4, Georgia 5, not necessarily in that order. Steve, have you soaked this one in regards to what it means? It doesn't mean anything, but in regards to what it's telling us and your thoughts about maybe who's overrated or underrated?
Yeah, I guess I haven't studied a whole lot on some of these other teams about exactly, where you would put them. I think Alabama is probably, right as number 1. They seem to have the most momentum coming off last season, although they do have holes to fill at some very key positions. Clemson, to me, if the new quarterback plays up to the level or anything close to what Trevor Lawrence did, DJ, then perhaps they're going to be up there. I think Oklahoma is up there because of Spencer Rattler. But I still am of a mind that Ohio State won to 50. And in terms of program-wise, Ohio State should be ahead of Oklahoma, in that regard. I think Spencer Rattler's the tiebreaker there for why they're higher. Georgia, it seems like Georgia or Texas A&M are poised for some kind of a breakout type season, perhaps in the SEC, if one of them can slip past Alabama. But, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. I read, I think it was USA Today, maybe one of their writers or somebody else did an overrated for this poll and thought Notre Dame at 7 might be a little bit overrated. USC in the 15 range might be a little bit overrated as well. Michigan is not mentioned in the preseason poll, which is a footnote. Obviously, it's probably the first time in recorded history that's never happened. There's a lot to look at and think of. I think the next best Big Ten team is Wisconsin, down at like 15 or something. So, that to me is very telling, and I don't know if it just says that people aren't giving the Big Ten the credit it deserves. Again, your conference will be rated and considered on the basis of how your teams do in the non-conference marquee games, and that's Wisconsin against Notre Dame and Iowa versus Iowa State, 2 ranked teams in that one. Michigan against Washington, Ohio State against Oregon, Penn State against Auburn. So there's a lot of really tough games there for the Big Ten, and I don't know that they're necessarily favored in a lot of these games. Ohio State obviously is against Oregon, but I think some of the other ones are pick 'em or slight favorite for the teams from the other conference. So again, just kind of take it all with a grain of salt. But at the end of the year, you wonder, well, why is this team seated where this team is or whatever? And you just have to kind of think about it that a lot of it goes back to what happens in August and September with these marquee non-conference games.
My question is, Michigan overrated as unranked? I mean, are they still overrated at that point?
That's a good one. To even receive votes, are they overrated?
You look at Ohio State's schedule, and they only have 3 teams in the preseason coaches poll: Oregon at 12, Indiana at 17, Penn State at 20. You figure that, potentially they could draw Wisconsin in the championship game, or maybe Iowa. You don't know at this point. But I'm sure there are going to be the critics out there saying that Ohio State isn't playing anybody, even though that Ohio State-Oregon game is going to be probably the premier non-conference game, or, top 3 nationally of the season, in my opinion. I think, it's a great intersectional game and is going to have a lot of interest. I think that we'll see, just based on some things, that Oregon, even though it's week 2 and there's not a lot of room for them to move up, could be in the top 10 at that point. But I think a lot of people, at least based on this USA Today poll, are not really buying in terms of the Big Ten and see it as the big one, little 13 at this point, with only one team in the top 10. Truly. And special shout out to Luke Fickell in Cincinnati being ranked number 10 out there. I mean, I think that's, tremendous. I'll be curious to see what those cynical writers have to say, and if they have the Bearcats in the top 10 or not.
Just looking at the poll, I don't know that Cincinnati can go much higher than maybe where Notre Dame is. And if they beat Notre Dame when they play, then, they seems to me they have a ceiling, even though they've got a decent schedule. They've got the kind of schedule that people have said a group of 5 team needs in order to get into the playoff picture. But it just feels like there's going to be a glass ceiling there for them. LSU, of course, now with their quarterback being injured, they're going to fall down. I wasn't a believer in them anyway, because Joe Burrow is no longer there, and and their head coach is, and that's a problem. USC, this is just this is Groundhog Day for them. I think Wisconsin will probably move up. I was a little bit surprised that Indiana was ahead of Penn State. Not that they shouldn't be, but just because, people have maybe just, it's Penn State's always better than Indiana. And so you put them there. But, Michigan, I think at 31 in terms of the also receiving votes is 30 SIDs or coaches believe they should have been ranked in the top 25, which 14 of those are Big Ten coaches, or maybe 13, because there's no way Jim Harbaugh could have put his own team in the top 25 because he sees them every day. I think Ole Miss may be underrated. I've got them. I would take the over on their win total, which I think may be like 8. So I guess I'm all in on Lane Kiffin making life miserable for everybody in the SEC West, especially now that LSU is going to drop down a little bit again.
Yeah, Hummus Hero, I don't necessarily know if Urban Meyer took a 50-50 approach. He didn't, to the Chris Leak, Tim Tebow situation in 2006. There were set packages for Tim Tebow to run along the goal line and on short yardage situations where he wasn't expected to read defenses and make throws to shred a defense or anything like that. They were set passes and typically gimmick type plays, or just him running the football out of the Wildcat. It wasn't like a Roger Staubach, Craig Morton, we're going to shuttle you in play after play after play, or Stanley Jackson and Joe Germain in 97 and 90, 96, 7, and 96 and 7 for Ohio State. So a bit different there. People are asking about the running game. Before we get to that, a lot of linebacker questions, a lot of defensive or offensive line questions. Those were addressed early in the show. So everybody, once this video posts, go back and hear the discussion about the linebackers and the offensive line. But people excited, of course, Tony, about Trayvon Henderson and Evan Pryor. Probably difficult to tell whether they're making any moves at this point.
Well, I think you're going to see, I think by the time the Minnesota game gets rolling, I assume Trayvon Henderson will be in the top 3 in the running back race. He's been getting some reps in the, when we see him, mostly he's like the number 4 guy, but from what I've been told, yes, he was with the ones as the kick returner a couple of times. So that may be an interesting way to get him involved. But I think once they get to Minnesota, it's going to be some order of Mayan Williams, Master Teague, and Trayvon Henderson. And now that doesn't mean Trayvon Henderson's going to carry the ball in the first quarter, but I would not be surprised if he does, because he's a difference maker. And when you get these kind of guys, so often Texas wasted Bijan Robinson last year early, first half of the season before they realized what they had, or they should have realized it much sooner. But, if Ohio State has that with Trayvon Henderson, I don't think it's going to take them that long to realize, and it's going to, yeah. I ran into a situation yesterday, which is whenever I'm writing about Evan Pryor, I write Evan Spencer instead.
Or Josh Proctor, Isaiah Pryor. Yeah, there are all sorts of possibilities there. Anything else on the running backs?
I think Steve's on mute.
Oh, that's my fault, Steve.
Okay.
Heard some audio bleeding. Blame me. Go to it.
I think there's a lot of promise with those 2 freshman running backs. They look very good running through drills. And I imagine they're chomping at the bit to get in there. I will say Master Teague looks like he's in amazing condition. And I think that if he's completely 100% healthy, you hope that he takes his game to another level this season and puts a little bit more polish on what he can do, because he's their best pass protector. So as a running back, and I think that really, really means a lot. And he's not a fumbler either. So I think that means a lot as well. So ball security and pass protection really do go a long way, I think, with the coaches. And so you try and ease the young guys in, particularly at that position, just because these are real men coming for you now. This is not high school football anymore. And Henderson in particular, maybe Pryor, I don't know if either of them played last year because of COVID. So I think maybe shaking some of the rust off as well and going in live game, but be quite a step up from the high school level to the Big Ten.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what Marcus Crowley has this year. He came off the injury. He did see some action late in the season. Wasn't exactly very effective when he had to come in for an injured Trey Sermon, but having the off season, has he mentally gotten past the injury or whatnot? But, I do like the potential of, Trayvon Henderson being in there in the top 3 as the other guys have said. I think we started putting in some answers for a beat media poll that's done. And I was asked who I thought would be the top production running back for Ohio State. And I said Trayvon Henderson, because I think that once he gets his opportunities, he's going to run, and he's going to run for a lot of yardage. So, I'm definitely on board with the Henderson hype, but I also think that people expecting to see him out there in the first or second series against Minnesota are probably going to be disappointed. You need to be able to do everything to be out there to earn that playing time. And that's going to be Master Teague at first.
And a lot of people love Mayan Williams. Think he's going to be he's the bowling ball. So we will see. 10 carries, right, though? This is what we're basing everything on. But we shall see. He looks good. Yakov desperately wants this super chat to be read. And we, of course, appreciate it, Yakov. More fans, USC, UCLA at the Rose Bowl or the Maslin game, whomever they're playing, I guess.
I know they're playing Pick Central on the 20th. That's going to be. I'm going to be at that. I'm going to be at the Pick Central Maslin game, so I'll be able to give you a firsthand. On the next Ohio State Buckeyes live. After that, I'll be able to tell you what the crowd is like. I know it's easy to pick on the lack of interest for SC, UCLA, Pac-12 football in general, but I'm a Cali boy originally. I'm wearing my Dodgers. I think it'll still be SC UCLA just because of the nature of that game. Now you give me UCLA Wazoo, I'll take Maslin. I'll take Maslin every day over that.
All right. You guys were asked a number of times during the offseason about Julian Fleming, of course, the #1 rated wide receiver in the country in his class. Have you guys seen enough, heard enough in the first week to 10 days, Tony, to know where he stands?
Yeah. All seems good to go. We talked to, I don't even remember, maybe Ryan Day. He mentioned that Julian Fleming's shoulder would pop in and out last year. So that's no longer happening, which is a great sign for anybody, especially the guy who is trying to catch a football and get off of press coverage. So, yeah, he's all good to go. He's looked good. We've seen him here and there, from 80 to 90 yards away, but he's catching the ball and healthy and running and seems to be happy. And so I would expect him. I assume he's going to be behind Chris Olave as the number 2 Z. But if they're going to play 6 guys, then he's going to be playing quite a bit. Keep going back to what they've done in the past. Terry McLaurin and Johnny Dixon both played the same position. They both played a lot. So there are ways to get this done and to get players playing time. And especially if Chris Olave is running a bunch of 60-yard routes, he's not going to be playing two snaps in a row every single time. So they're going to have ways to get other guys involved. And I would expect, I don't know what the number is for Julian Fleming, somewhere between, maybe 15 to 30 catches this year and some big moments and some moments where you're like, well, next year when he's the guy, he's going to really look like it. And when he's a junior, that might be his last year at Ohio State because he's got the build, he's got the talent, and pretty soon he's going to have the production.
Looks like that DJ Uiagalelei, the Clemson quarterback, has signed a deal to be part of the Fansville promotions there with Dr. Pepper. So Quinn Ewers can cross that off his list. Or maybe they team them up like Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes. Maybe they do that.
What if they get the Larry the Dr. Pepper guy who ends up having a blonde mullet?
I'm down with that. Still not going to drink Dr. Pepper, but I'm down with that.
Yeah, I miss Larry. Didn't they take him out the last few years?
Yeah, he's been off for the
Pandemic,
Fansville run. I think like 2017 may have been his last year, maybe 2018. I don't know. I have a picture with him when it was still a thing from the 2014 national championship season in Dallas. He was out of character, but he was in there eating in the media room. I'm like, I hate to do this, man, but I would love a picture. So I guess I've only been starstruck twice or three times in this industry, and one of them was for Larry Culpepper, the Dr. Pepper guy.
Well,
Two or three times, and he made the list.
Let me tell you one of the others, Mark, and both involve Dr. Pepper. First one is Larry Culpepper. The second one, the first time, was Scott Baio back in like 1981.
No.
All right.
Because he was a Pepper.
Charles in charge.
He wanted to be a Pepper.
Larry the. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was the guy. That was a big deal. And, of course, Steve was in the Mean Joe Green Coke commercial. I don't know where somebody pulled that out of. But there we go. All right. We have ground to a halt, I believe, here on Buckeyes Live. For Tony Gerdeman from Buckeyes Scoop, Steve Hellwagon from Bucknuts 247 Sports, with the balloons in the background still in celebration mode, and Kevin Noon from Buckeye Grove on Rivals. Please check out these guys' work on a daily basis where they're at, and we will see you all next week.